Coral Springs, Florida. When I was growing up, it was me, my mom, my dad, and my older brother, and that's it. My older brother was very cool, definitely a popular guy. He was a really good swimmer, you know, and I took on swimming because, you know, I wanted to be as good as him, but I didn't get there. I imagined my high school like to be, you know, fun and exciting, and I wanted to just make friends, you know, like go partying, you know, have a girlfriend or, you know, whatever, just experience that. So we started hearing loud bangs in the hallway, but I was in the class and I felt like a pressure in my head and a burning sensation, and I didn't know what happened, but then I realized, you know, something was wrong, so I jumped to the hard corner, they call it, the corner with the door. That's almost the same wall as the door, and stay out of view, pretty much. I sat there, and then I felt something running, and there was blood, you know, and then I realized I had gotten shot. Later that night, my dad took me home, my mom went to look for my brother more, and then my mom came home, and she was crying, and she was like, you know, he passed away.
Alex talks about getting behind that door, getting out of the view of the viewing panel within that classroom. To review what happened that horrific day, 3 floors in that high school. The attacker takes an Uber to get to the school. If any of you followed that trial, that Uber driver, when she testified, she said that she thought it was an instrument case that he brought in fact, a weapons case. He goes right into the school, enters without being challenged. First floor, didn't really have a clue what was happening. Second floor, everyone survived on that second floor. Everyone had the chance to lock down. Everyone got behind that locked door. Everyone survived. Third floor, fire alarm goes off. People start evacuating. They didn't know what was happening. They realized what's happening. Now people and teachers and students are trying to get back in their classrooms. Some teachers did not have the key on their person. Now they're locked out of their room. The attacker exits the building, goes to a local fast food establishment where he is soon arrested. Locking down, getting behind that locked door.
So when we speak about lockdown, as Lisa stated, that threat made it into our building. It's our worst case scenario, right? We know fact-based because we had the ability to sit down with survivors of active shooters and take them to lunch. And they told us, that there will be no magical announcement. It's going to happen fast, it's going to happen violently, and you're going to go into shock. Even the highest trained in this world, Navy SEAL, Army Ranger, whomever you believe it is going to shock. They are getting out of that shock instantaneously, and all of us right thereafter. Right thereafter, because we have a plan and we implement our plan. We have a plan for our schools. We know what to do and where to do. We train. Our school district administrators, our directors of security are very, very proficient in this. They do a great job. We, as Elisa stated, give them our most prized possession and demand that they give us our most prized possession back physically the same way, but only mentally smart. And guess what? They're doing a really good job. They're doing a really good job because they have a plan and they follow that plan. So our plan is to get these students behind locked doors. Get them behind the nearest locked door, not their locked door, the nearest locked door. Get behind there, lock that door, barricade that door, and wait for the cavalry to arrive.
Thank you.
We will be there. We, the Suffolk County Police Department, will be there. Not just us, every park ranger, every sheriff, every state trooper, every FBI, and anyone else in law enforcement will respond to that location to look to neutralize that. It is important, though, that we do understand the difference of the verbiage, and we have to make sure that if we ever utilize these words, we utilize the correct word. If people are on the outside, they have to get in during the lockout, and they're locked down from the outside. We want them not to come back inside the school.
The schools work very hard in training those teachers. Locking that door is number one. Getting those students out of the way of the viewing panel, because if it looks like no one is in the room, chances are the attacker, they're going to keep on moving. They're not necessarily fumbling with the lock, moving the weapon from one hand to the other, because they know they're on the clock. They know that police will be there very, very, very quickly, and their goal is to take out as many people as they can in that short amount of time. So that's why our schools practice what they do. There also is another thought that New York State is addressing. Do lockdown drills, do active shooter drills cause trauma to students and or staff? Therefore, they put specific guidelines into place. Now, the lockdown drills that we're talking with you about, they're not meant to cause stress. They're meant to help people put at ease and to be comfortable enough to make certain calls in those life-saving situations. So they're not meant to cause stress. Active shooter drills such as setting up fake scenarios, having the fake smoke and the sound effects, if those were done in a school setting, absolutely they can cause trauma during that school day. Suffolk County, we don't do that. Long Island doesn't do that, right? They don't practice drills in that nature, but New York State did come down with regulations that schools are not allowed to set up those scenarios. The training that I mentioned earlier in Drew, when we do that training with active shooter drills, as they call it, where we train our officers and invite school staff to observe, those have always been done and will continue to be done off school hours, whether it's 4 in the morning on a Saturday, whether it's 11 o'clock at night. We will never have students take part in those kinds of drills. And if they want to be an actor for our role-playing scenarios, they have to be 18 and up. So we don't do that anyway. So New York still is abiding by, Long Island is still abiding by these requirements. So again, we're understanding the other side of it, that there could be trauma.
So we see active shooter, we all know what it is, right? The guy comes in with a gun and starts shooting everybody. But no longer is it just active shooter, we say active shooter / active assailant. Because they are utilizing blunt instruments, knives, axes, IEDs, improvised explosive devices. They are also utilizing cars and running people over. In totality, all of that is an active shooter that we, the police department, must get to that location and neutralize that threat in a rapid fashion. In the school setting, if a vehicle comes onto that ground and starts running people over, we have a serious incident. People are passing away. It's just as if they're utilizing a firearm, right? So we must get there in a rapid fashion. We must put everybody in a lockdown, get them out of there, put them in a safer location, and make sure we address this issue.
We are going to review information with you based on studies that have been done by the FBI and the Department of Justice, and the information that we provide to you can also help you build your own personal plan to use this when you're also out at that fall festival or on the train to Manhattan or in the concert setting. So we're going to use it and apply it to our own personal life.
So many of us, when we think of school shootings, many of us are like, oh man, they're shooting up schools, right? The number one place for active shooter incidents is schools, but in actually fact-based, it isn't. The number one place for active shooter incidents, if you look on the bottom, is outside venues. Then you look next to it is commerce. Then you look next to it and we see schools. So by a show of hands, how many of us have been at Costco or BJ's or Kohl's in the last month? All of us. Because we're all creatures of habit. Every one of us do the same thing time and time again. So we need to change. We need to get our steps in. We need to make sure we identify secondary exits as soon as we get to a location. Whether that's a house of worship, whether it's Kohl's, whether that's BJ's. Because if we are inside of BJ's and an active shooter event happens, all of us are not making out of that door at the same time. It's impossible. Some of us are going to get trampled to death, and some of us aren't going to make it. We must identify our secondary exits. We must know where their stockroom is and know that they get merchandise and know that we can utilize that stockroom when that emergency goes off. All of us, majority of us, didn't grow up with this device. But now, if we leave our house without this device, we make a U-turn and we go back. We're like, oh, I can't live without this thing. Meanwhile, majority of our lives, we didn't even grow up with this. However, when we leave our house in the morning, this is on ring. No longer. No ambiguity. When we leave our house in the morning, our cell phone is on vibrate. Because when this event occurs, we will not have the know-how or the knowledge to put this on vibrate or silent. And I promise you, this is going to light up like a slot machine. Everybody that you know, everybody that loves you, is going to call you, text you, Instagram, Facebook. This thing is just going to go crazy. You're going to give away your location and your loved one's location and your colleague's location. So please, when you leave your house in the morning, your cell phone goes on vibrate. When you go back in your house at night, it goes on ring. Every other part of your life, this is on vibrate. Please, please, please.
The average active shooter incident lasts about 12 minutes, not including the crime scene, of course. More than half of the incidents are over in 5 minutes or less, and more than half are over prior to police even getting to the scene. Basically, what is this telling you? I hate to say it, I'm sorry, but what is this really saying? You're on your own. You're on your own for that short time. Luckily, on Long Island, we have a great police response time. Even if the response time is 2 minutes, we know that it could feel like 2 hours for people waiting for that arrival. So when we talk about active shooter incidents, how are we buying ourselves time until that first police car arrives on that scene? How do we buy ourselves time? Most of the incidents, male attacker. Sorry, gentlemen, it has not always been the case. It might not always continue to be the case, but so far, most of the incidents, male attacker, and most of the time, it's one attacker. Why is it one? It's hard for people to buy into another's plan. We'll talk about the planning process, right? If you're my friend and I have this horrific plan and I tell you about it, chances are he's gonna be like, OMG, what? Oh my gosh, no way. Hard to buy into the plan. This is where we can use our common sense to help us. Where let's say you are at the mall and if you hear shots fired and it's the active shooter incident and it's happening from your left, if you're not there, you can't get shot, right? You know, most of the time it's one. If I'm just going the opposite way, I'm surviving. We train our schools, all right? If it sounds like it's happening on the other side of the building, you know that you have the time to lock down. You have that time. Most of the time, again, one attacker.